why are we here?
Okay, so where did we get the question?
Okay, so we got the question last night from our show that we do. It's an online show. It's called Q&R Quick Fire. So the Q&R stands for question and response, and we live stream on Facebook every Tuesday, and we also live stream on YouTube. So we got a question last night, and the question was, can a Christian have more than one wife? So, as much as I want to beat Solomon by just one wife, you know, he had 1,000 wives. So I think I would get into a record of just 101. But let's get into it. Can a Christian
have more than one wife?
Or will they go to hell if they have more than one wife?
The answer is no, they won't go to hell. So I know there's a bunch of my conservative Christian friends that are having a heart attack right now when they hear that.
Yeah, we're like, oh, let's do this. But
that does not mean that I advise you to go and have more than one wife. You might say, yes, but you know, I'm so wonderful, I just want to spread more of my wonderful self around.
Yeah.
Alright, so we have ample evidence throughout Scripture in the Old and the New Testament that they were Old Testament believers that had more than one wife. Yes. Abram's a good example. Then his grandson Jacob had 4.
Yes.
Well, 2 wives and 2 concubines. And then David had multiple wives. Solomon, you've mentioned.
Yes.
In the New Testament, we don't have the names of people that had more than one wife that were believers. But it's obviously an issue because Paul answers questions about it.
Yes.
And he also gives some advice to how you choose an elder. And he says, if you're going to be an elder, you can't be somebody that has more than one wife. So we cannot say, if you have more than one wife, you're going to go to hell. Now we have to distinguish between 2 groups of people. Right? In the Old, well, actually 3 groups of people then, if you want to take it that way. In the Old Testament, it was allowed, but not encouraged. But there were certain conditions. And this is kind of what you have to keep in mind when you get into the New Testament. It says in Deuteronomy 2, it's talking about somebody that has more than one wife. And then the one wife he loves, and the other one he doesn't love as much. And so the unloved wife, if she gave birth to the oldest son, then the father cannot take away the birthright of the oldest son and give it to the younger son because it's the son of the wife that he loves. And that gives you a picture of what happens in marriages with multiple partners.
Yes.
Now you have strife. You have strife between the 2 wives. You have strife between their children. And isn't that beautifully illustrated? Well, I can't really say beautifully, but isn't it clearly? That's better. That's better. Isn't it clearly demonstrated in the story of Jacob and his wives? Right? The fighting between Abraham's wife Sarah and her servant, her maidservant Hagar, that Abraham took as a concubine. You have all the strife inside the family.
Also with Jacob and
Jacob's two wives, they were 2 sisters, and they fought with each other. It reads like a telenovela, like some soap opera. It's actually bizarre. So that's what happens when you have multiple partners in a marriage. Will it send you to hell? No, but it can make your life here on earth feel like hell.
Yes, and leaving hell.
In the New Testament, you're looking at people that have more than one wife because they had more than one wife before they came to faith.
Okay. So that's the second.
So that's the second group. Old Testament group, people that had more than one wife when people knew it was a bad idea, but the law allowed them to have more than one wife.
Yes.
Right. Then you have in the New Testament, you have people that had more than one wife already before they came to faith in Jesus.
Yes.
Right. So those people, are you supposed to then divorce the second, the third, the fourth, up to the how manyth wife, and just keep the first wife? Or do you keep the wife that gave you the most children? Or how do you...
How do you...
Okay, the New Testament says you don't divorce them. You do not divorce your wife. And that comes from the Old Testament. Because even though you've created an unhappy situation, you've not created an illegal, under the Old Testament law, you've not created an illegal situation, but you have created an unhappy situation. You're not going to fix that now by creating more unhappiness. Look, Malachi 2 verse 16 says, thus is the Lord, the one who divorces his wife does violence to the one that he's supposed to protect. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have entered into this marriage covenant, even if it's with multiple partners, you've entered into that covenant now. Now you're responsible to take care of that person. You're supposed to protect, provide. All right. That's part of what marriage is about. Now it's been messy. It's now messy because instead of two people that are intimate with one another, that can face one another on an equal level and kind of talk the truth to one another, now you've got two wives playing off against each other and competing. So there's a loss of honesty and intimacy. That takes place there between the husband and his wives. All right. You actually end up with less intimacy, not more.
Agreed.
All right, so you cannot now divorce because that's unloving towards the wife that you divorce. Right? You're not keeping your covenant there. So how do you deal with this? Well,
oh wait, we have the third group.
Okay, so well, we're still talking about the second group, right?
Okay.
You have now taken on responsibility, and you need to deal with that responsibility.
So would it be right? Like I'm just flipping through my Bible. And I hear this verse that Paul writes that God has overlooked the times of ignorance. So we're dealing with...
Yeah, it is Paul, but it's in the book of Acts when he's preaching.
Okay.
Right? When he's preaching to a bunch of heathens that have no idea about the Old Testament. He's in Athens, he's on Mars Hill, he's speaking to the philosophers, and he talks about all this, and he says God has overlooked these times of ignorance, but now commanded. Right? So things have changed now.
Right.
So, 1 Corinthians 7, where he's talking about marriage and divorce, he actually says, look, if you're married, you're concerned with the happiness of your marriage partner. And he's not saying that's wrong, he's just saying that has now become a priority, and it's actually your duty. Right? So if you have multiple wives and a bunch of children, you have to deal with that responsibility that you have towards them. That means that has to be your priority, and there are some things that you have now disqualified yourself
from.
Okay, it's in that context that Paul writes to both Titus and to Timothy. And to both of them he says, if somebody wants to be an elder,
let him be
a man of one wife. All right, let him be faithful to his wife. Singular, all right. It's not let him be faithful to his wives. It's let him be faithful to his wife. Let him be a man of one wife. All right. So that means you need to be faithful. You see, if you have multiple wives, your schedule's booked up. Your responsibility is to make sure to be concerned with their happiness. Okay, with taking care of them. But if you if you want to be an elder, it's a good thing. Now, if you look at the conditions that he puts out for elders in both Timothy and Titus, look, he's just saying be a good person, right? You must have a good reputation. You must be managing your household well. Your children should be obedient. You should not be a man that's greedy for gain. You should not be drinking heavily. You should not be addicted to wine, he says. You should not be a fighter. Okay, always arguing with people. He's basically saying be a decent person. But the first thing that he says in the list is be a man of one wife. Alright, so your life is already complicated enough if you have multiple wives. You don't have time to manage the household of God. That's actually the argument that he makes in 1 Timothy 3. He says you should be a man of one wife, managing your children and your household well. Because if you cannot manage your own household, how are you going to manage the household of God? So it's about taking responsibility. Now, I've still not said it's a sin.
So we can get that out of the way.
It's not a
sin, but it does disqualify you if you so we can say for those that are already Christ followers but came to Christ
in that situation,
having multiple wives, it does disqualify you from the
Okay.
responsibility of serving in the house of God, either as an elder or as a leader, but it does not disqualify you from being a Christ follower.
No. All right. So that's kind of settled.
Yes.
All right. Now I'm going to be even more extreme. Remember, polygamy and monogamy. All right. Having more than one wife or one wife only. It is a cultural value.
Yes.
Okay. It's not a biblical value.
Yes.
It's a cultural
It's cultural
value.
Yes.
Let me tell you a story. There's this particular missionary. He actually wrote an article about it, where he talks about culture, okay, Christianity and culture, and how missionaries are supposed to act in cultures. And the example that he uses specifically is about a society where there is polygamy, and he's actually referring to a real event that he participated in.
He encountered.
Okay, I think it was the Waku people that he was working amongst. And when people started to come to faith, the missionaries were all like a little anxious. They actually wanted them to stop this polygamy thing. But they with the wisdom of God, they decided to not push it. They let people discuss it in the community. So the missionaries were not imposing their cultural value. And they saw no scripture in the Bible. I'm talking about the locals. They saw no scripture in the Bible saying polygamy is sin.
Yes.
Because they're right, there is no such scripture.
Yes. Yes.
What they did conclude was, it is unloving for an older Christian man to have more than one wife when there are many young Christian men under the age of 30 that didn't have a wife yet.
Yes.
So they said, let's not take more wives until all the young men of marriageable age have at least one.
Yes.
Okay, and within 15 years, okay, polygamy was gone. Okay, it did not need a legal enforcing of a particular cultural value. They decided on the basis of love for each other.
Yes.
Okay, they made a community decision as a Christian community to move away from having more than one wife if somebody else
doesn't have
a wife, which I thought was brilliant.
That was amazing.
Okay, that's inside of the Holy Spirit.